Dr. Raymond Taylor. They took a river preacher and turned him into a Jewish Messiah. They forged a birth, staged a death, and wrapped the current of living water in a robe of blood. The story that conquered the West was never Jewish. It was never about temples, priests, or genealogy. It began in a river in the hands of a man who called on Hayi Rabbah, the great life, and it ended when his followers were forced to kneel before Rome's new idol of a crucified God. What survives in the text of Mark is not theology. It is testimony stripped bare of ritual, speaking the language of the Mandaeans. Mark. The only real one. Mark is the only gospel that still breathes water instead of blood. No virgin birth, no Bethlehem, no Davidic line. The story opens with baptism, not a manger. Jesus comes from Nazareth to the Jordan, meets John, descends, and rises. That is the beginning. The ending is equally simple: an empty tomb and silence. No witnesses, no appearances, no victory speeches. The women flee and say nothing. That is not failure, it is purity. Mark preserved a Mandaean pattern of descent, immersion, and ascent. The entire arc mirrors the ritual of Masbuta, the Mandaean baptism, where the initiate dies symbolically and rises renewed. The Mandaeans call the river Yardna, the channel of light. To them, the soul passes through living water to the world of light. Mark's gospel, when stripped of later additions, is the gospel of that current. Matthew. The Makeover Matthew hijacks Mark and rebuilds it to fit a Jewish audience. He adds a genealogy tracing to David, fabricates a virgin birth in Bethlehem, and inserts endless quotations from Isaiah to create a false prophetic fulfillment. He adds the Sermon on the Mount to make Jesus sound like a new Moses preaching law, from a mountain instead of Sinai. This is propaganda, not revelation. The Romans wanted a Jewish king they could market to the synagogue and the empire alike. The genealogy is fake. There is no historical record of any Davidic lineage in the 1st century. Even the Jewish historian Josephus, who catalogued royal bloodlines, never mentions this one. The Sermon on the Mount is a later invention to make Jesus compatible with Pharisaic moralism. The original preacher did not deliver codes of law. He called people to the river. Luke. Same idea, fancier style. Luke polishes the same fraud. He extends the genealogy back to Adam to universalize the myth. This is clever rewriting, not divine insight. The Mandaeans saw all souls as children of the great life, not bound by tribe or circumcision. That idea terrified the rabbis and the Romans. To control it, they rewrote it. Luke keeps the baptism, keeps the water, but surrounds it with ornament, angels, shepherds, censuses, and miracles to blur the original current. Yet water still leaks through the cracks. The prodigal son, the good Samaritan, and the washing of feet all echo Mandaean ethics of cleansing and restoration. Luke was not writing history. He was laundering a Mandaean current into Greco-Jewish literature. John. The stolen Mandaean gospel, John, is not synoptic because it was never Jewish. It is the Mandaean gospel rewritten by Gnostics and edited by bishops. The prologue, "In the beginning was the Word," echoes Mandaean hymns about the first life and the hidden name. The imagery of living water, light, and truth flows directly from the Hayi Rabbah, the Mandaean book of life. In John, the baptism is still central. Jesus and John the Baptist perform the same ritual. The conflict is editorial. Irenaeus and later church fathers stripped John of its original Mandaean vocabulary and rebranded it as Christian mysticism. When John writes that the law came through Moses but grace through the Word, it is not about Judaism versus Christianity. It is about the water of life against the law of sacrifice. Paul, not a Pharisee, a river priest, Paul's letters echo the same rhythm as Mandaean baptismal theology. Buried with him in baptism and raised to new life is not symbolic language. It is the formula of the Masikta, the rising from the waters. His letters to the Romans, Corinthians, and Galatians describe immersion, rebirth, and the end of the law. There is no mention of crucifixion rituals in the earliest strata of his writings. The later interpolations add blood and atonement. Paul's claim to be a Pharisee is a literary disguise added by editors to domesticate his teaching. Within Judaism, he rejects the Torah, circumcision, and temple ritual because he never belonged to them. Paul's gospel is the river, not the law. He was not a Pharisee gone rogue. He was a Mandaean priest preaching a universal baptismal awakening. Resurrection. A river rebirth. The resurrection narrative is the final rewrite. In truth, the preacher drowned and was lifted. Mandaeans still perform immersion, where the initiate is held under and lifted thrice, to signify descent into the underworld and return to the realm of light. The story of Jesus vanishing for 3 days before appearing again fits the same ritual pattern. There is no cross in the earliest version, no spear, no pilot. These are later mythic graphs. The resurrection is the reappearance of light through water, not flesh revived from tomb dust. Christianity turned a ritual memory into a miracle of flesh to sell the illusion of exclusivity. Prophecy, Unfulfilled. The Hebrew prophets describe a Messiah who restores Israel, ends war, rebuilds the temple, and brings justice to nations. The gospel Jesus fulfills none of this. He curses the temple, mocks priests, and denies family and nation alike. He baptizes instead of sacrificing. His kingdom is not of this world because it never belonged to the Yahwist order. That alone proves he was never the Jewish Messiah. He was the anti-temple voice of the river, proclaiming a source untouched by law, blood, or tribe. Scholars, complicit in silence. Modern scholars know the structure is forged. Bart Ehrman admits the textual layering but stops short of naming the source. Robert M. Price exposes mythic parallels, but refuses to connect them to the living Mandaean tradition. Raymond Brown, Geza Vermes, and John Dominic Crossan all circle around the truth without stepping into the water. They call it source criticism or redaction theory, as if the truth were too clean to touch. The synoptic problem is not about literary dependence. It is about cultural theft. The church fathers stole the baptismal myth of the Mandaeans and painted a Jewish Messiah over it. The real gospel, the original message, was never a creed or confession. It was an act. Go to the river, speak the name of the great life. Wash the falsehoods away, no blood, no Yahweh, no sacrifice, just water, light, and motion. That is the oldest gospel. The same current found in Mark's opening and John's fragments before they were rewritten. Every later doctrine is commentary on theft. Conclusion: Rome needed a death cult. Judea needed a king. Together they drowned. A river prophet in their propaganda. They nailed the water to wood and called it faith. But the truth never died. It flows still in the rivers of the earth, in every breath, in every cleansing act of renewal. You do not need priest, altar, or nation. You need only the living current that Jesus entered, the same that spoke through him, the same that raised him without blood. The water remains. Step in, breathe, rise, and know. Veritas lux mea.